The Golden Boot. That's what we call it. The rivalry between LSU and Arkansas. Joe, LSU coming off a pretty big win here against Ole Miss in overtime, a thrilling game. Arkansas coming off a bye week, but the week before beating Tennessee at home in an upset. What's the status of Taylor Green? When I look at this game on a Monday, what is the status of Taylor Green? And can Arkansas upset yet another team in LSU?
I feel like with a team like Arkansas, and I know that I was a little bit negative on them at the start of the season, and I do need to walk that back. Actually, I wasn't. Never mind. What am I talking about? I gave Arkansas more credit at the start of the season than you did, but I thought that they were going to get smoked by Tennessee, and that didn't come to fruition because Tennessee is not as good as we thought that they were. If Malachi Singleton is starting and it's not Taylor Green, I have to lean and believe that LSU is going to be fine in this situation. It's brutal that LSU has to deal with an Arkansas team that feels like they're on the top of the world coming out of a bye on the road. It absolutely is. But some of the my biggest problem with Arkansas, Blake, is that they played one really, really good game against Tennessee. And up until that point, they were all over the place. They were really inconsistent. There were some bright spots, but there was a lot of inconsistency. They're running the ball really well. And that's where a lot of their offensive production is coming from. But their inconsistencies had hurt them, especially in the losses that they had against Texas A&M and against Oklahoma State. I think that LSU, for how messy of a performance that they had, the fact that they were able to still win that football game makes me start to believe that this is a situation for LSU to establish themselves more. Not saying that they blow them out. I think this game's going to be close because this game is always freaking close. But the separation point, the team with the better passing offense, the team that can throw the ball better is going to prevail. One quick thing on LSU, they got to run the ball more. And I don't think that that's a hot take, and I think that you completely agree with me on that. They are 126 in the country in run play percentage. They're barely running the football compared to anybody that they're facing off with. If they can run the ball more, I think that this team is a little bit more grounded and potentially they're turning the ball over less.
There's a key thing here in this game. Number one, let's say that Singleton has to go, okay, and Taylor Green's out, hypothetically speaking, on a Monday. LSU is fourth in the country in sacks, Joe. They get after the quarterback, and that's not a great thing to deal with when you have a team in Arkansas who's 87th in the country in sacks. Okay, that O-line has been very leaky, and LSU will come after you all night long. Just ask Jackson Dart how that plays. Throw every statistical thing out of the window in this one.
Yeah.
Every single thing gets thrown out. Everything. Joe, this is Arkansas Super Bowl. And I know Arkansas fans are going to come in here and they see the Joe Burrow painting behind me. They know that what I'm about to say is the truth. It's their Super Bowl. LSU does not care about this one as much as they do. Joe, I had multiple Arkansas media members this past week begging for LSU to win because they wanted this matchup in prime time at night. Arkansas almost beats LSU last year, and they're going to lean on that. Can't do that this year. You're a completely different team. Joe, you talked about their inconsistency, meaning Arkansas. You're right, but they did clean it up. They did. And I think that's the thing that people are missing. They did clean it up against a really good defense.
But is one game enough evidence to say that? Like I get a little
game against Texas while we put them at number one. I feel like we moved the goalposts on teams in the sense of Arkansas has been very much tested, okay, and they've still been able to move the football at will on everybody that they've played. Now, the turnovers and the lack of bad or the bad decisions that they've made have not generated them points and have lost them football games. But, Joe, from the 20s to the 20s, Joe, they're one of the best moving offenses in the country. I mean, you can't ignore that at this exact moment.
Yeah. But before you continue, just my problem with that is that yes, they cleaned it up the last game that they played, but we've got more football games where they played messy football than we have games where they played great football. The trend would indicate that they're improving, but the rate of success that they're having isn't great. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but it's just a tough thing to decipher.
Well, and they might have a brand new quarterback against a team that really gets after the quarterback. So
yeah.
Listen, I think that LSU is going to clean some things up offensively. You know, Joe, we've seen teams coming out of the bye. I mean, LSU literally just came out of one where they did not look good offensively. I don't think that Garrett Nussmeier had a good game, but he made some elite throws late that won them the football game. Joe, there's something to be said about a team, though, and this is going to be the ultimate test. LSU's up 75 spots in total defense from a year ago to date. And I don't think people are understanding how good Blake Baker has made this defense become. They've been better in the secondary. Joe, I mean, Zy Alexander got his 14th career interception in just college football, but he's got his 14th career interception against Jackson Dart last week. They're getting better, but throw everything out. One team's going to win by 3 points. I have no idea who it's going to be, but one team's going to win by 3 points. And I feel like it would be LSU based off of what we've seen. But if Arkansas wins this game, it's not going to surprise me. This is going to be a slugfest. But the only thing that I look at this is that, man, how many times are we going to see this LSU offensive line not give up sacks? Can they even generate a pass rush on Nussmeier? There's so many different things that I think we look into this one and say this is going to be just an outright war.
Well, so that's like a really good point that needs to be brought up with all of this, is that the Tennessee game where they played their best game, they were able to win because they were able to seriously impact Nico. Now, I know that Nico's experience level is completely different than Garrett Nussmeier's experience level, but they were generating a ton of pressures through the interior of Tennessee's offensive line. That was where all the problems were caused. It was just a lot of straight line shots that were coming up the middle. LSU's offensive line has been elite. They have been the best offensive line of keeping quarterbacks' pockets clean. Like all that performance that they have had so far is really shined against some pretty good defensive lines that they've seen so far to this point, and more importantly, some really good defensive coordinators. That makes me feel pretty good about this. Like that, this game is always won. This matchup is always won along the line of scrimmage. If LSU will win this game because they protect Garrett Nussmeier, and if they start to try to figure out if they can run the football more consistently. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Arkansas secondary has been very leaky, and I would expect potentially, hint, hint, wink, wink, that LSU might be getting some players back at wide receiver. Joe, if that's the case, then I'm going to pick LSU. Look, I think LSU's in a very tough spot. This is going to be a close one. If LSU goes up there to the Fayette Num and wins, I don't care if they beat them by one. You know, I mean, like, there are just some places in the SEC that you go and it's going to be a dogfight. I think this is going to be one of them. So we'll see. All right.
Well, before we get it, wait, what's the deal with Kyron Lacy? I know that he had he came back into the game after that like weird way that he planted. Is he good? Because like me and Sean were sitting there watching that game. We thought that he blew his knee out. Like that was a really bad.
I mean, listen, here's the only thing that I know. I think he hyperextended it. I think he heard something pop, and I think that he got checked out and he was fine. But Joe, okay, he had 3 catches after that and went off.
Tough kid, tough ass kid.
I mean, I love Kyron Lacy, and I put him in my top 10 wide receivers in the in our previews.
Top 5, you put him
our top 5. Yeah, the kid's really good. Here's what I'd say. I think he's very sore today. But if you told me, I think he's going to go. Now, if he doesn't, that's a big issue. But
yeah,
I mean, Joe, he played 3 other quarters. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, he's not running like that if he blew his knee out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I didn't think he tore anything, but it's kind of like one of those things, adrenaline, and then maybe you kind of show up in the training room and it's like, hey, you have to take this game off. I don't know. Just curious.
If that happens for LSU, they're in trouble.
Okay.
They're in deep trouble. So we'll see.